Boom.
Hey, bro.
I've got the clear frames on, eh? Didn't make the change.
I was told that was the uniform for today.
Bro, you had me thinking about the Scott thing in my head now. The time since I put that in the post this afternoon, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, I wasn't going to rip you over your eyebrows, but now it's a fair game, eh?
Look at that, bro. Look at that. Shit is out of control. What are you most looking forward to on Thursday?
On Thursday, we're actually going to go back to the office on Monday. So Monday is our big day. And look, man, just getting that crew back together, yeah? People communicating. We've had some good times on some fun drinking sessions on Friday afternoons with the crew, you know, doing cahoots and playing some shameless games. So yeah, man, it's just mean to bring all the crew back together. There'll be some fun times again.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Hey, so
I'm sharing beer now with you, man.
Oh yeah, yo, that's right. I didn't grab my beer. I literally have come off another live, and straight into this, which is why I was a little bit late. So sorry about that, brother. But I wanted to get into this this overdose story. Is that your guys' cap, or what is that cap? What is that?
This one?
Yeah.
This is an old school Obey cap.
Oh, wow.
Although I have about 200 caps all the way around my office, so you can see all the ones behind me. It's having a shocking hairline and hanging on to the roots of youth, mate.
I wanted to give the people watching an idea of you know, your background and you know how Overdose got started. What's the story behind that? Because I've never actually heard it myself. Yeah,
man, sure. My original background, I've got a degree in product design, so that's what I came from originally.
Yeah.
Then when I skipped out of uni in the UK, you can still tell I've got a bit of a South London accent. Started working in the old big American banks. This is like pre 9/11 shit, right? Building real-time derivatives trading systems, real high-end super tech stuff, right? Kind of did a bit of a stint in New York from there. Met my now wife there. So she worked in like the operations. I was in the tech side. Did a bit of traveling, moved out to Singapore, then worked in a bit of private wealth management, heading up some big IT teams. And then sort of late 20s, we decided to come over to New Zealand. So we've been living here now for about 15 years, had babies, got 4 kids here. Still live up in the Bay of Islands, so way up north, up in Russell.
Wow.
And I actually dropped out of tech for quite a while, Pat. I actually went and started like a whole chain of fine dining restaurants and stuff. So I kind of got into real small business. And it was a real fucking culture shock, to be honest, mate, because you went from this high-end corporate lifestyle of where you thought you were invincible to suddenly you were cleaning toilets and working out the margin on a flat white, right? I think through that process, learned a incredible understanding of small business, right? So now, even now when we're hiring, I look for people that have spent a bit of time in food and beverage, right? I think if you've mastered food and beverage and you can understand that industry, you understand the balance of delivery and customer service and the margin plays in there. Like, I kid you not, restaurants are a harder game than agency or digital, right? You're literally manufacturing a product to order. Hardest game in the world, right? Just keeping product fresh, the competitive nature of the industry. If you're in the wrong vertical, you know, if Vietnamese is hot one year, but you're in the seafood, or you've gone takeaway line and everything's gone fine dining. So we did a couple of pivots in there, and we actually flipped a fine dining restaurant to be like a little seaside bistro, took it way downhill in terms of quality and doubled the revenue of that business, right? So just because the market's changed through there. Kind of through that, got a calling back to tech. It was kind of what is my original passion. Did some consulting, had a smaller SI firm, and then saw this gap in the market, which was to kind of do some real talk on what digital commerce really was. I saw this sea change happening in industry. And where I, spent about 4 or 5 years in this e-commerce space, we saw that there was a bigger opportunity in there to really help retailers accelerate and grow their business. And previously, you'll have experienced this, right? The whole of the agency network landscape was about delivering microservice, that concept of an agency of record. And you'd have a hub and spoke model, and you'd have your SEO agency, your creative, your technical, and you'd have all these agencies. And what was happening through there is no one was actually being fully accountable for the end result, which was dollars on the table for the clients, right?
Yeah.
And you'd have the design team blaming so your design agency would blame your search agency, that would then blame your marketing agency, and no one was actually responsible for the whole thing. So we saw that, and we also saw this dynamic in market of where agency had always been a media-driven space as opposed to a revenue fiscal-driven space. You know, so if you're a big old school networked agency, it was this campaign mindset of let's produce this wicked piece of content that goes super viral, and then we all hope that that increases sales through the supermarket. Right? And there was no fucking connectivity between the action that was taken and the outcome, but you just trusted that that would work.
But so how the agency won some awards along the way for their ad.
Correct, man. Correct. And most of those agencies are doing their work for their awards, right? You know,
exactly.
A lot of my crew are the outcasts from those large agencies, and they've seen that attitude of it's a self-promotion wheel as opposed to really truly driving outcomes for retailers. So we had this vision, man, and what we saw was this opportunity to scale an organization, but keep it small, but go big, right? So we have this concept of scaling insurgency, which is that we wanted to be cute, local, agile, to the point, making eye contact, having real chats about how we drive business forward, but do that at a global scale. And the normal way that all big agencies grow is you build these huge, massive Goliath machines of agencies, right? And then you go and put sales guys in all these different locations. So we came up with this concept of a federated business model, which meant that we were kind of building federated is like, the way the US has a federal government, and then each of the states has their own government. And we wanted to build lots of similar agencies that looked the same, played off the same DNA, could survive off of the kind of the macroeconomics of, the value and the enterprise shit that we could do, but was still fundamentally local. So all of our agencies are run by their own MD, who runs their own P&L. They have equity in the parent business. So we have 16 shareholders in the business now, all directors of the business. Everyone is operational. And we believed in a shared success model, right? So everyone should benefit from that super growth, as opposed to being locked in on just one big picture. So a lot of our growth actually came from staying local, but doing it at scale. And essentially our success is because of the people that I work with, man. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I just managed to bring some absolute weapons together that were masters in their field, own their shit every day, and deliver.
The idea of
that's kind of us, man.
Scale is the idea of local at scale is fascinating, right? Because it feels like we're on the cusp of being able to do, a lot of businesses are on the cusp of being able to apply that to their various verticals and their various markets and things that they work inside. There seems like there's a greater, I don't know, it's just a movement of, like, as we've witnessed through Manaaki, a movement towards local, a movement towards smaller. And perhaps I have a bias, but we kind of, a lot of people that we've spoken to through these real talks have expressed that type of thing. When I get out of this, I want to do something smaller. But this idea is really interesting. What you're talking about is, small and all the benefits of local and relationship, but the focus on delivering results, local type of relationship, but doing that at scale. That's a really interesting model.
Yeah, so we have two little buzz phrases we use for that. One is think global, but act local.
Yeah.
And the other one is enterprise capabilities, but boutique agility, right? So, it's all a bit buzzy. But yeah, that's essentially our secret sauce. Our secret sauce is the people. And I think what a lot of our clients like is that, we call a spade, Pat, and if it's shit, we'll tell you it's shit. But it's the ability to have
do you call it shit inside of your own spot first? Like, do you have the culture where you can just call, hey, our work is a bit shit, and this is like, getting a bit wanky and we might be getting a bit brandy here, or like, how do you keep yourselves accountable to that internally?
Yeah, so look, I think out of that deck that you mentioned, there's one slide in there which is the most important slide to us, which is individual accountability, right?
Yeah.
Now that individual accountability, those are the people that we see being successful in their careers. Is that guy who sits next to you who just owns it every day, and he's the guy you can tap on the shoulder and will always be there for you. And that's a mentality that is infectious. It's viral. Right. And when you bring people like that together and they see that this guy's owning his stuff, the other people around them do that. And look, we've made some crap hires in our time, and there's people who have come into our environment that had big fancy backgrounds that didn't fit in. We've had other people that had big fancy backgrounds who've broken themselves down and built themselves up into amazing people through that process. But with the accountability,
because that, like, it's easy. Like, we have a lot of people that come on, they talk about the principles behind it, and then I think we slip on the detail because we know it's hard work. You know what I mean? There's actually a lot of graft and a lot of grind and a lot of consistent effort and repetition to actually develop cultures that work in this way. And so how have you really made that level of accountability come to life? What are some of the things that you've had to, execute inside and situations you've engineered inside of your business to actually make that happen?
Yeah, so look, fundamentally, there is no replacement for hard work, right? You just can't shortcut that. We have a couple of kind of strategies to enable that. So accountability across the whole board, to yourself, to the guy next to you, to the brand, to your clients, to the whole delivery. That's just a non-negotiable with us. The other one is that we have a default to transparency as well. Okay, so that transparency comes through. We share with all of our staff our profits, our growth, where we're going to, what are we doing. Everyone's got a seat at the table. Everyone's got a voice to that. We also default to trust as well. So if you want trust, you've got to have transparency before that, right? So the transparency then breeds the trust. And look, we are far from a perfect business, Pat. But what we have is we have a group of people who inherently love and care what they do and the people around them. And when you breed that culture of reciprocity back to your peers and everyone giving back and everyone moving in a certain direction, that's where it all comes from. I think a lot of it also comes from our leadership style of where there are guys who took massive pay cuts to come and work for us in the early days, like huge pay cuts. And I sold them a dream as well, Pat. So my view is that I work for them. I've sold them a dream. I've told them this is the best career step you're going to make in your life. This is a rocket ship. Jump on now. We're going to go to great places. And hey, look, we've got guys. I think one of my favorite little success stories is a girl called Shan, who was like our second ever employee at the company. Yeah. She turned up a day early for her interview, fresh out of uni in Hamilton. She did the worst fucking interview you've ever heard. She just sat there and said nothing, but she had this portfolio that was banging. And Ryan, my co-founder, said, look, this girl, she just got it. She's just got it. And Shan's worked for us now for 4 years, and she just got promoted up to lead creative. And we have, I can proudly say that we have defined her career, right? Now, we were the vehicle. She did all the bloody hard work, right? Yeah, but we were the vehicle that made that happen and gave those opportunities. So I also believe that if you're good enough, you're old enough. We're in an industry that is basically what you knew 2 years ago is pretty much irrelevant, right? So that's a great space for young guns to come in to and grind out a career. But we also have to have an attitude of where when we hire people, we let them go into super deep water. And the deeper you want to go, the deeper we will take you, right? And you just got to be there with the life ring to catch them when they're drowning, right? So I don't think there's any vehicles or techniques. It's actually just basic human bias, right? Where we bias to get shit done. We bias to trust. We bias towards transparency. We bias towards delivering every day. And everyone has to believe in that viewpoint. And it's amazing now that as we bring in more guys to the business, and there's always an apple that upsets the cart, you've got to pick those out pretty quickly as well. And now it used to have to be us that did it, and now it's pretty much the team that squeezes those guys out. And it is genuinely an infectious place to work. And the love and aroha of the guys is just epic. It's just awesome.
And you talked about with the individual accountability, right? Was it's in the deck is never accept failure. And so in an industry where, particularly around tech, but also in creative and design, we hear this mantra thrown around all the time about fail fast, don't be afraid to fail. This kind of seems to fly in the face of that.
Yeah, I don't buy that, Pat, to be honest. I don't buy the fail fast mentality. I buy the just stop failing mentality.
Yes.
Right. So look, so that kind of belief is what I teach my kids, right? Is that literally everything you do in business is a choice, right? And through the combination of those choices is how you ended up in a particular situation. Do you take that LinkedIn request? Do you hire that guy? Do you trust that person? Did you sign the right contract? Did you find the right opportunities in there? And when you implicitly trust, you have to have that self-awareness and hubris to yourself to go, if something went wrong anywhere in my organization, it was my fault. It was fundamentally my fault because I empowered the wrong person that made the wrong decision, that made the wrong action. Now that may be a bit of a waterfall approach, but if you can internalize that and always say, right, next time I'm going to learn through that process and not do those same things again, that is your failing fast kind of attitude, right? But when you find someone to point the finger at and someone to blame, and if that's your default, if your default is it wasn't me, it was him, right? And we've had that internally. We've had that where something's gone wrong and I've gone and spoken to that account manager, managing director, project manager and said, where did this go wrong? And say, it was her, it was him, it was their fault, they did this wrong. Whereas what I'm looking for those guys is say, I fucked up. I gave this guy too much reach. I didn't stay on top of this. I should have picked this up earlier, right? So that self-accountability, man, it's an asset. And when you find people like that, you hang on to them for dear life. And we try to coach that into people, that it's not wrong to fail, but it's amazing to accept your own failures.
Oh, amazing, amazing. But you know what? I think about it, bro. It sounds like a bit of bloody army boot camp in Overdose. The way
I don't know, man.
You describe it like, but it's not like that at all, right?
It's not like that at all. No, it's literally just ingrained and it's there every day, right? Yeah. And it's just it's just the day in and day out of culture. And there's no real onboarding. You come in, you work with great people, you get coached. There's always someone to grow. Everyone gets a buddy in the business, and it's super, super flat, right? We have, one or two levels of management, if that, in the whole business.
Well, it just cuts through all the bullshit, right?
It does.
Through all the BS, and then just people can get there and do their work. But so then what role for, bringing the individual's fire and passion for their role, and does everybody have to sort of conform to this view of the world if you're gonna hang in the Overdose? Because we're gonna get to the end result of all of this is like you guys are smashing, right? But how do you reconcile the desires of the individual against the desires of the organization? Or do they have to just all completely align? Otherwise you're the wrong person for my business.
No, man, you've got to have balance in there, right? Not everyone can be moving at 1,000 miles an hour, right? So it's my job to try and move the fastest, and I actually deliberately surround myself with people who have a bit more of a risk profile than I do. So, I will take to my leadership team a dozen ideas, and they'll tell me that I'm, need to go and take some pills, and 11 of those are absolute bonkers. But what comes with that is there's always one diamond in there somewhere. And with the rest of the crew, look, you need to have a team that is conscious on delivery. Okay, so as long as they're always delivering, people can move at different speeds. I think the biggest thing, though, is you've got to find the people that just want it, and they genuinely want it. And there is, some of my best staff, what they really want is stability of income, stability of work-life balance, stability of opportunities that they can sink their teeth into. Now, so none of that is that I want to go 10x on my career. We've got guys in our organization we've tried to promote, and they've gone, dude, I can't keep up with it, man. This is where I'm at. This is amazing for me. But what they've done is they've been self-aware to say, this is me. This is where I want to get to. So we try to help all of our guys find that. What's your vision? Where do you want to be? This is the person we think you could be. What do you want to be? And find that balance and that channel to push them through there.
And talk to me about the balance and rhythm that you have through all of your organization, because it's one of the things, it's one of the slides that you've got in there, and it's about balance and rhythm and not going on the crash diets.
Yeah, so crash dieting is the quickest way to break a business. And also, you know, in a client vendor relationship, that continuity and cadence is everything, right? So a lot of our world works off of most of our clients buy a set number of hours or days of resource per month. And there's an expectation of delivery through that. If you go through a process of over deliver, under deliver. So we always use this analogy that if you're delivering a 12 out of 10 and you absolutely smash a client's results, what you've actually set is a new normal for this is the expectation I have for that level of relationship I've built with you, right? So what tends to happen is that you onboard a new client, you've sold them a 10 man days a month kind of thing, and the team go hell for leather and do 20 hours to 20 days in the first month and absolutely crush the results. Now, logically, that says that, amazing, these are the guys I want to work with. That's why I signed up. But what you actually do is you put a pole up your back and you're expected to deliver at that level all the time. And it's just not rational. So then what happens is that the CFO comes in and says, guys, this account's going to shit. We're losing money all over the place. What's going on? And then stuff starts getting cut, and then you start under delivering, right? And so if you then deliver a 6 out of 10, you've actually given them a delta of 6 in that process. So what we always look for is you've got to kind of balance yourself between that 8 and that 10, right? You need to be delivering absolutely amazing results and quality of value. But what you can't have is that fluctuation. And I think that's true through every level of relationship. I think it's true with your marriage. It's with your relationship with the kids, right? Everyone expects continuity. And there has to be an expectation of when I have this communication with this person, with this company, with this body, there's an expectation of what those results will come back. And I think that actually drives, I've seen a heap of stuff going out on market about people scathing online businesses for their customer service at the moment, right? And guys that have had to wait a week instead of 2 days to get their delivery, right? And what that is because there was a basic expectation set. I've always received my delivery within 2 days. Why am I getting it within 2 days now? And it's not because they are not aware of the rest of the world. It's because they're myopic to their own situation, right? And everyone is inherently looking at their view of the world, right? And it's very few that open their eyes up and see that complete broader spectrum of the world. So for us, continuity, consistency of delivery, and that's not saying go medium pace. It's saying if you're going to go at a fast speed, you need to continually go at that fast speed. There needs to be an expected set of reactions that you will get when you go through this process. And if you're all over the place, fuck, your staff hate it, your clients hate it. And I think that's for any business and any relationship, continuity and cadence is the key.
Yeah. And then you also talk in that deck about, retention before sales, right? And I suppose if you're managing that expectation well, and you're not in this with ups and downs and highs and lows and peaks and troughs all the time, then just loving the customer that you're with and providing that level of consistent delivery is then a whole lot easier than going out and trying to have to find a whole bunch of new customers. And those guys that get that level of service and that level of consistency of execution inevitably go out and tell their colleagues and business associates and networks as well.
Yeah, man. So look, the majority of our growth came through that organic channel, right? And it was good people connected other good people together. We got ourselves in a bit of a pickle when we were going through some crazy growth. There was 1 week where we signed 11 contracts in 7 days. And everyone was hooting, hollering and high-fiving. 3 weeks later, it was a fucking mess, right? Because we had just grown so fast that we hadn't actually planned our resourcing kind of in line with that. What we've also seen...
that one. It's the oldest chestnut of the book. You high five and you sign off the contracts, then holy shit, we got to do the work.
Exactly. And I think if you flip that into a retail environment, what we coach a lot of our clients through is that the cost of retention versus the cost of acquisition is usually about 7-1, right?
Yeah.
So, and the majority of our clients, when they come to see us, the first thing they say is, we need more customers. We just need more customers. We need more eyes on the prize. We need more traffic. We need more exposure. We need more fans. We need more followers. It's actually rarely the truth, right? You've actually got enough people to drive a really successful business. But there is this love and desire to always have net new, right? But if you're a fashion brand and you can find that customer who already loves your product, already has that affinity, and you can use some smarts, be it some AI, just some good thinking, some loyalty to actually resell to that same customer, it costs you 1/7 of what it would cost you to go and find a brand new consumer. And that's true in our world as well. And in our world, if we lose a client, we feel we need to win 3 clients to replace that one that we lost, right? Yeah. One to actually replace the value of the client lost, another to replace the time it's taken you to pay someone in sales to go and do all that work, and one more to cover all the reputational loss that you've had through that process, because if they left you, they weren't pumped, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so for us, retention is about reputation, right? And reputation drives organic growth. And I think that's true for any brand in the world.
Run that again, bro. Run that again. Run that back again, because that was some gold right there. Go again on that.
So what I was saying was
reputation equals
retention drives reputation, right?
Yes.
If you're retaining your clients, be it in any vertical, that is driving your reputation. If you are losing a client to another brand, to another supermarket, to anything else, they are taking their cash and they're also taking your reputation with them. So reputation is the one core asset that we have at Overdose. We own no IP, Pat. We own nothing. We literally have no IP in our business. All we own is reputation. That's it.
That's incredible. And of course, you know, all of this comes together. I just love your emphasis on delivering the results, right? And just getting away from all the fluffy brand stuff. It was one thing that Xero was also incredibly focused on. Like, the company never just did brand for the sake of it. Like, everything was focused around getting the financial result, right? And that financial result is the only metric that really mattered at the end of the day. And so, you know, a big part of that from my perspective and with the team that I ran there was being able to motivate people that were, you know, had a bias towards just being creative. We're just creative people, to be able to roll with that focus and actually understand the nature of that challenge, and then be able to step into that challenge and go, actually, this is, if I'm a serious creator, then this is one of the biggest challenges that I'm ever going to face. I have to sell fucking accounting software, of all things. Try and be as creative as possible, because, you know, it's a global market and it's tough, and it's not exactly the sexiest product in the world, but everybody needs it. And I have to do that in a way where it's measurable, and I'm accountable in part to that end number. But that also, you know, it requires a really good understanding of the cost and financial structures in and around that operation of a business like that.
But I think Xero isn't a hugely dissimilar business to Overdose, right? And in the
that's
fact
what I'm
that,
saying. It's not hugely dissimilar.
Xero, and you know, you'll be pleased to know all of our businesses use Xero around the world.
Good.
I'm just trying to convince our American office to get off QuickBooks, but we'll make it happen. Look, what Xero gives me is it gives me insights and tells me things about my business that have a financial outcome to my business. So yes, I'm going to keep paying that invoice. It's a really sticky service, right? And very selfishly, that's why we chose commerce as our version. Now, we chose commerce for 2 reasons. One was that it was sticky, and that if you're in any other digital space, if you're selling creative or content or media, it's very, very easy to say, these guys are hot, I'm going to use them this season. Actually, I love that campaign that this agency did last month. I'm going to go to those guys, right? But if you are the guys that can use really deep data to show we affected financial change to your business, and you can apply a return on investment directly to our invoice, that's a really hard invoice for a CFO to turn off. And we had one kind of about 6 months ago.
Well, not only is it a hard invoice for the CFO to turn off, but a smart CFO goes and he looks at it and he goes, well, actually, this is the only thing that's like really delivering. Like this is the thing like that. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Exact case in point. One of our, in fact, our very, very first customers, unfortunately went into liquidation. Not the greatest plug in the world, but a company called Ziera, used to be called Comps. These guys were an amazing product, an amazing brand. Unfortunately, they were kind of over leveraged in the commercial retail space. But anyway, we took them online, were smashing huge numbers for them. Liquidators came in and they cancelled every other agency apart from the guys that could prove their absolute immediate value, right? So we actually went through a insolvency of that company, but they moved, I think, like 4 agencies of work. They consolidated into one relationship with ourselves because we were the only people that could prove a exact fiscal monetary value to what we did. And yeah, so, you know, it is selfish of us to kind of play in that space, but it's also a place where we can prove that we've added value, right? We can genuinely say, we can show where the needle moved and what it is that we did that moved that needle. And
it's a great approach, man, because, you know, what a competitive advantage to have over everybody else out there in the space.
And I think it's
holding themselves accountable.
And I think it's going to be really difficult for these big, large network agencies that are still selling on brand and campaign and commercials through that, because there's guys like us that are proving accountability and fiscal value. And if you can't do that, it's going to be a really hard space to exist in.
Well, I mean, like, if it wasn't before, it really is now.
It is. And look, a lot of those large networks are trying to catch up, Pat. You know, they're trying to catch up and they're trying to translate into this space. But it requires a real sea change in how you think and how you approach the market, and how you find fair value through that process and continually find ways to grow a company. And it's every day, man. It's every single day grinding and looking at the data, looking at the brand, looking at the creative. I think the other advantage we've got is that we hired a ton of people from retail. So I'd say probably about 50% of our staff, it's their first ever job in an agency is working for us. And they've come from trading roles, retail positions. And what we wanted to get was that real deep empathy around what does retail mean? You know, so when they're dealing with our clients, they fundamentally understand stock turn, seasonality, you know, CFOs chewing my ear off to move this product. Everything we agreed last week, it's changed. We're now doing this, right? And that's why we needed that local agility to be able to swing with those punches. Because if we're building this big macro shop and you quoted in a piece of work and it's 3 months piece of work and you are completely rigid on that delivery and there's no versatility in that process at all, then you fundamentally don't understand a digital commerce environment because it's changing under your feet every day. Yeah. So
let's talk about that process. Because of your approach, you must start somewhere that's fundamentally different when you engage to where the typical agency in this space does.
So we start in their data, always start in their data. So the first things we ask before we will even quote for a work is we need to see your minimum. We want complete access to your Google Analytics. Because then when I dive into your analytics, I can see things about your business immediately, right? And we can literally, I can put my guys front, it's like, you want it to go there, 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 and there, and give us 6 months and we can double that business, right? Because you can pick it. You can just read it when you've seen enough of those businesses. So we start there. Once we believe there is an opportunity to grow that business, we then start with their people. Now, we're really picky on who we work with. And we have decided not to go into really big corporate relationships. So we stay in that mid-market, right? And we're really resolute that we have to work with brands, retailers, B2B, wholesalers, whoever they are. It doesn't bother me which vertical you're in, but you have to be a group of people that can move at the same speed that we can move at and want that, right? And genuinely want it. We've taken on brands of where there were staff that wanted it, but then every time you wanted to get something changed, it had to go back up to the board, right? I took on a big Chinese airline, right? And it was literally a 3-month approval window to get anything changed. To get an Instagram post approved, 3 months lead time, right? And it's like, guys, we can't do this. This won't work for us. So You've got to have people that we can connect with, engage with, and have a relationship with. We start with the data. Third one is you just got to have good product, man, right? You just can't replace good product. And this is so true in that fashion space. You had Kate on from Huffer before, right? If you aren't innovating your product and staying relevant, you have no guarantees that those 10 t-shirts you sold on Tuesday, same day last year, you're going to sell this year, right? However, if you're in the baked beans market and you've just got the best baked beans product, you can roll that product for 5 years and not have to dramatically innovate across the top of that. But you still got to keep your brand relevant. You still got to understand that consumer. And then the fourth thing is, do they understand their customer, right? And I think that's the biggest sea change that we've seen in COVID. I'd say probably around 50% of the brands we're speaking to on a day-to-day basis now, Pat, are FMCG brands. It's guys who have never gone direct to consumer. They've always relied on channel to get their product out there. And they're now seeing, in the US, we're talking to like the world's biggest chewing gum manufacturer. It's like, we have no idea who buys our product. No idea who this customer is. We don't know what volume they consume in, how many bars they chew a day, whether they're the only people in their household that buy that. We don't know what channels they purchase through. We know nothing, right? So there has to be that desire to understand that data and the transparency of that piece. So what's really interesting for us is that we went through, when we first started Overdose, we were kind of a digital transformation company. And then we went into all this big delivery kind of phase and the marketing and the search and all that kind of stuff. In this last kind of 4 weeks, the biggest part of our business that's grown has been strategy again, of where people are coming back going, okay, we don't know. We don't know what good looks like. We don't know how to even start this process or who our customer is. And we've actually kind of got a bit lazy on what the market looked like. So take us, show us, where can we get to, right? And
well, now's the perfect time to do that, right? It's the perfect time to do that now.
Oh no, perfect time was about 6 months ago. But yeah, it's the best time you've got now.
Just even coming out of this right now, like, you know, the consumer's attitude isn't the same right now as it was 3-4 weeks going in. Like,
far from it.
Yeah,
and
switch up.
But it'll reset to a certain point. I think, you know, I think we'll see like a 2/3 reset of people going back to some default behavior. My pick, you know, I think at the moment, ANZ market sits at around about 12 to 13% online GMV across the whole country.
Yeah.
I think during COVID, that sort of started peaking towards 30%. I think you'll see that settle back to sort of 16, 18s and then kind of nudge 20s. Our classic retailer story would be, I want 5 to 10% of my revenue to go through online. We're having conversations now of I want 50%, right? I want to go direct to consumer. The other interesting thing that's happened through COVID as well is you've had a lot of retailers where, especially in fashion, where they wholly relied on wholesale to get their product to market, right? Now, if you are a fashion brand that sells through multiple channels, you have to play the fucking game. You have no choice but to go with the seasonality, how they buy their product, right? You've got to ship in 4 seasons. There's people have tried to do 8s and 12s, but fundamentally it's 2 with a mid-season in between each one. You have to be respectful of price point, right? So when you're manufacturing your product, you've got to leave enough margin in there, right? To go to wholesale and then to go to retail. So what we've seen with this is we've got a couple of retailers of where the arse fell out of their wholesale market. And they came to us with this hallelujah moment of, we've just become unencumbered, right? We have no responsibility to any of these people. We're going to go fucking wild. We're going to go direct to consumer and do all that transformation stuff, Todd, that we spoke about 2 years ago. And we said, we just can't do it because it'll upset too many people. We're going to go for
too many of my retailers.
Yeah. And that's where these guys that want to do a direct to consumer, but also a wholesale model, it's really hard to keep those two things in check and be successful at doing both. And I think you've got guys, I think, you know, Allbirds, fantastic example. Yeah. Only business is direct to consumer. We're going to control our whole vertical. We control the whole lot. In New Zealand, people like Barker's, right? They control the whole vertical of their product delivery to market. And those guys, they know their consumer. They own all their customer data. They own all their customer insights. They know where they buy their product. They know their preferences because I haven't diluted this across other channels. And the typical historical path to market was to go through distributors, go through big wholesalers. But now that that's been taken away from you and your back's against the wall, everyone now is going, right, I need to be a direct-to-consumer channel. I need to understand these guys, right?
That's so interesting, right? Because for so long, you know, as you say, fashion, retail, fashion, like, you know, you have these incumbent models that you're very apprehensive to disrupt. But then, here comes COVID, and then all of a sudden it's like the lights have come on. What's the lesson in this, you think, for organizations when you're thinking about having the courage? Like, so if someone engages with you, you told them they should have done that 2 years ago. They come back and we finally go, oh, well, you know, COVID has provided opportunity for us to relook at this, and actually now we want to go all in on it. What's the magic formula, right? Oh, no, I can't believe I'm asking you this question. But on behalf of the viewers, you know, how do you get an organization that is so, you know, ingrained into those incumbent models to have the courage to disrupt itself? Because even you, who are metric-based, that you are data-based, and you could have probably shown them the model and been able to extrapolate out all the different realm of possibilities, still couldn't get them to go back then. But now they have to. Now they come in and they're ready to go. What is it?
I think they have to want it, and I can't say that strongly enough, because you're absolutely right that on so many levels we have worked with brands to redefine what a feature looks like, and they're too shit scared to burn what they've built previously.
All the time, man.
Right?
All the time.
Crazy scared of it, right? And so I believe that growth is a choice, right? Growth is genuinely a choice, but it's a choice of taking your own control, and that has to come from the top down. Now, what all of our clients have historically wanted is kind of, can you guerrilla this shit in there? You know, can you kind of get me direct to consumer, but don't tell all those wholesalers that I'm doing it? And I want to kind of exist in the shadows and grow a banging business. So the answers were already there, right? I think, look, if you look at fashion and you look at fashion brands in New Zealand that have been fundamentally successful and have, you know, massive international growth and a true global footprint, they all own their whole business, right? Look at your Kathmandu's, your Rod and Guns, right? You can literally name on a handful guys that have fully broken it in Australia. And it has to be a commitment to owning your own vertical and being in control through that. And I think that's the same if you are using anybody else to do your transaction. At some point, you're gonna have to disintermediate them, right?
Yeah.
If you are selling toilet rolls through Amazon, they will invent their own toilet rolls, right? Yeah. And this happens up through the biggest sea change we're seeing happening, Pat, is actually up in Asia, right? Of the guys in Singapore have never been busier now, because you've had everyone in there where the only path to market was through Tmall, Lazada, Shopee, Alibaba, right? And you just had to do it. That was the game. So don't fight the game. That is the game. And now they've realized, fuck, I need this relationship direct with my customer. So I think that COVID gives you the license and the bravery to go direct. It genuinely does, where you say, look, we have an opportunity today, right now, to fully fundamentally change our business and set sail in a new path. Or we can sit here and hope that everyone else is going to recover. So for me, it's about owning your shit and taking control and being masters of your own destiny. And if you are fully inclined that the rest of the market is going to recover at the same rate as yourself, and you're going to be responsible for that, then you have to accept that their growth kind of stunts your growth, right? And you have to move with them through that process. If you want to go exponential, you've got to go out on a tangent, right? You've got to own it.
The intent and the desire to want to own it, to want to grow. Like when we started Indigo, and that was the first gate that we had, because we quickly figured out that if you didn't really want it, then the whole process was going to be hard. We have to really convince you. We'll have to really, you wouldn't just trust the data. There would be intuition, and there'd be a whole bunch of other things that you have to have in it. But I think there's just fundamentally a different mindset that's required if you really want it, and then you begin to act into it, and then you have the wherewithal to invest in it. But if you don't really want it, then you're not really the guy.
But I think that's where the word being an entrepreneur gets thrown around real hard, right? Because apparently if you start a brand today, that makes you an entrepreneur. In my mind, it doesn't, right? I think if you're an entrepreneur, you do one thing, which is you fundamentally back yourself every single time, right? And you're willing to wear those risks and run with it. and have this belligerent faith that I know everyone around me is saying something different, but I think this is the right direction. One of the other things we talk about with our team as well is that we never try to consider ourselves as better than anybody else. We never look at being better or cheaper or faster. We fundamentally believe in something different, right? So we landed on this word insurgency.
Come on.
Right?
You fundamentally, come on, let's go. Real talk,
yeah,
let's go. Preach,
so that word insurgency, the word insurgency to us is really important because it's trying to redefine an entire industry, right? It's finding that little angle, and it doesn't have to be big, right? Again, let's use Allbirds, right? They just took a shoe and did it with a better, different fabric and came up with an aesthetic. They didn't really invent a new product category, right? It's footwear, it's sports footwear, but they found an angle, a niche, and they redefined that. Didn't compare themselves to any other product. They didn't do a Coke versus Pepsi challenge, you know? It was fundamentally defining themselves in a different space. So I believe that different is better than better, right? And I think that that's where you find those really successful brands and those really entrepreneurial brands that are willing to wear it, take a leap. In fact, I was talking to my wife the other day about a brand that I thought would fail, but has cracked it, which is the old Tank juice bar. And I said to my wife, who the hell is going to pay $10 for a orange juice when I can walk into the dairy and pay $2.50 for a 500ml bottle? There's queues out the door at every mall, right? But they had the wherewithal to position themselves and have absolute belligerent faith that this is the space to be, and redefined a price point, found an angle. That's all we did with Overdose, right? Was we took a existing industry and just shifted it and repositioned it and showed a different flavor to market of that. And I think that's what everyone has to be doing. Whether you're in FMCG, fashion, hospitality, you've got to have your unique version of you. But it doesn't have to be insanely unique. It's just got to be specially unique.
Yeah, man, you got to own your own shit inside of it. And so like that formula that you guys have been working to, and what we've been speaking in and around over the course of nearly the last hour or so. I mean, it's one thing just to have it in theory, right? But you know, you guys have the evidence that this shit actually works, because your company's going through extraordinary growth. I'm supposed to have a beer here because I'm supposed to be giving you a cheers on your on your deal that you signed today. But you know, just talk a little bit about your own growth journey with Overdose, and you know, because those are the runs on the board, bro. And I just want everybody to know that you're not just some brainy guy with nice frames and a cool, you know, retro Obey cat, and you're talking some rares. You actually got the runs on the board.
Yeah, so me and Ryan started the business. Interestingly, our original business
You haven't been around for a long time either. Like, how long have you been around?
4 years. 4 years now. Yep. Yeah. Just at our 4th birthday. If you can find your way to one of our birthday parties, you might not survive for the week afterwards. I certainly can't. So 4 years, we've grown out from the two of us who started it, running a team of just over 200 staff now. We're pretty transparent in our numbers. We have a vision of building a $100 million business. That's where we want to be. We're 25% of the way there. We've just opened up in New York, so we run 7 offices. Auckland, Melbourne, Sydney. Just put some boots on the ground in Brisbane. Really fast-growing team up in Singapore. We've got a big offshore team in the Ukraine that allowed us to grow really fast because there's some tech weapons out there. So we've got guys that work for us in a couple of offices over there.
Just a question on that. You said before that you don't have your own IP, so you're building on other platforms then.
Yeah.
So those guys up that's your dev capability up there. They're just like owning it on existing e-com platforms, or what's the deal with those guys?
So we also we flipped the switch on this, where most of your dev guys, they want to work in project mode. You'll have seen this, right? Your most expensive devs want to work on projects, and no one wants to work on support. We flipped it, right? We flipped it completely, and our most senior staff work in a support environment. This is how much we value the ability to deliver constant change every day. So in each of our offices, we have senior tech guys. You know, so there's a dozen guys in Auckland and in Melbourne. Those guys, they're working on some project stuff, but they're there fundamentally to support the trading. of that business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we work on 3 key platforms: Shopify Plus, BigCommerce, and Magento, which is the Adobe product. We're pretty pumped that we were the first ever Kiwi agency to get Partner of the Year for Adobe, basically saying we're the best at what we fucking do. So that was pretty choice. And yeah, man, look, we're that kind of group of guys who have never managed to find peace in what we do, right? We've never managed to find a destination or a goal. It screws with your mental health sometimes, where everyone's telling you that you're smashing it, and I go to bed at night going, damn, we only won, 8 out of those last 10 pitches. We should have won 10,
Yeah.
And so
that's hard being that type of dude, bro.
I wear failure so hard, man. So hard.
People always telling me that I can get satisfied and like accept shit. I'm like, what? No.
Nah, I can't find it yet. I can't find
me
that
neither.
yet.
Tell me if you find actually don't tell me if you find it. I ain't interested in it anyway.
No, it drives my wife insane. And no, so literally most of my conversation with the wife is, when will you be content? And it's like, well, I said I'd be content when we got there, but now I just put a 0 on the end, so we're going there next,
You won't be content.
But no, look, we're actually putting out a call. We're going to push out some content back end of this week, where we're putting out a call because we believe there is some amazing talent in the market that's falling out from COVID to come and join us and open up new offices. So we're looking to open up in Berlin, Stockholm, Tokyo, Amsterdam, Austin, Vancouver.
Let's go, Todd.
So we're doing a full let's go, and we're literally doing a I don't think there's many agencies that have the balls to go to market and say, expressions of interest, would you like to start an Overdose office? Come pitch to us. Show us you've got your shit together, and you can take our vision and, be your version of a Federated office. So
that's a big move, man. That's a bold move, bro.
It is, man. And we're doing it all off of our own back. And we've just got a team here that goes all in on every move, right? It's all in, every move. Not taking any cash off the table.
How long was
driving hard.
Has that been in the works for a minute, or is that just something that you've decided to do recently?
Me and Paul, my COO, shared a couple of Slack messages on Sunday, and we recorded everything today. That's how you roll, right?
I love it.
You got to move fast, right? If the passion's there,
what's
and
the
you think
value
it's good.
in moving fast? What's the value in moving fast?
Oh, it gives us a competitive advantage, right? That ability to literally execute on everything. That's not just in our leadership style. That's in all the work that we do. It's what our clients expect of us, right? And it's the backing yourself. And we're lucky that we've got a team that backs us all the way. Yeah. It gives you an absolute competitive advantage. And I guess we fail fast, but I don't like saying fail fast because we don't do it.
Can't say that shit now.
Yeah.
I'm getting the countdown clock on Insta Live. This shit is about to get there's a
big explosion comes up.
Yeah. We get an hour, but just as we wrap up, I just want to capture your thoughts. You talked about sustainable growth in that deck, just to go back to the deck, and we'll make sure that deck gets out. We'll share it.
Yeah, please do, man. Free.
Yeah, we'll share it around. But when we talk about the sustainable growth and the keys to it, and obviously that deck breaks it down. But, as you reflect back on everything you've achieved in the last 4 years, is there any one of those principles inside of that you could recommend that small business owners, little guys getting started out right now, should lean into that can give them an advantage in what they're doing straight away?
I'll tell you one thing that's in there, which isn't in there, which is not necessarily, that deck is designed for how all of our people think, right? But I've got a couple of little other things about how I think as well.
Let's go.
Now,
give me the gnarliest one. Give me the gnarliest one, bro. The one that.
So I get a little bit emotional about this one because this is something that my dad taught me, who used to run market stalls, and he taught me one phrase, which was to chase rainbows, right?
Let's go.
So we used to live out in these big fields down in Kent, and you used to see these rainbows coming off, and he would always encourage me to kind of race through shit and try and find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And it was a silly shit, but I still come back to that now. And the concept for me of chasing rainbows is that everyone looks at that rainbow and they know there's not a pot of gold at the end of it, right? But sometimes you do find the little leprechaun that's sitting there, right? So the concept for me of chasing rainbows is doing the shit that other people wouldn't do, and that some other people think is really dumb. They think it's really dumb. Why are you charging in that direction? And suddenly they look back in a year's time and gone, holy fuck, he did find the pot of gold at the end of that one, right? So I think that concept of chasing rainbows and that belligerent belief in your own ability to, you know, find new opportunities in market, that for me is the biggest thing that any young entrepreneur can do, is absolutely have belligerent belief. And for fuck's sake, don't listen to some of the people around you, right? Your friends, your family, they'll all tell you what you want to hear, right? Speak to people that will give you real truths and will tell you exactly how it is. And there'll be some people that turn around and go, man, that is unreal. Go, run hard, charge, right? So speak to people who know what they're doing. You know, dial into the whole Manaaki community, because there's some weapons in there, man.
Mate, this session that we do is called Real Talk, brother, and you have kept it real, on the real. Cheers, for real. Thanks for being on, brother. I really appreciate it. How do people find you, bro? How do people find you? How do people find Overdose? How they hit you up? Don't
Google
call you.
Overdose.
I'm too busy.
Google up Overdose Digital and see everyone that's bidding on my brand keywords and click on all their ads. That's my favorite thing to do. Find us on LinkedIn. And, you know, I do every day for 30 minutes at 1 p.m. I do a free consulting for anyone through Manaaki. There's been some guys that have done some amazing stuff through there. We've fixed a couple of businesses. So I am available. We want to give back.
So there are a couple of people on here that were asking about, you know, are you doing any work with charities? Like, just make use of that 30 minutes, because that 30 minutes will just change your whole world anyway. And if you're a good person, then you never know. Todd might give you a little bit more love.
We do we do work for about 3 or 4 charities. Yeah. And we just fix all their search up for them. Yeah.
Todd Welling, thanks for keeping it real, brother.
Thank you, my man. We'll talk soon.
We'll talk soon. We're out of here. See you, bro. See you. How good. That's real talk. That is for real, the real talk. We got to get that one up live. There's just so much gold in there. Like, dude talks so fast because his brain is just so big and he's processing so much stuff. But, like, watch that back. If you want clues on how to execute growth, that company has, like, been dominating the Fast 50, everything. Get into this video. Look him up. Get on Manaaki. Try and get 30 minutes of his time, because that time is valuable and it could change the life of your business, your trajectory, everything that you're doing. That was us for tonight. Thanks so much for joining. So I was late. Sorry I was late. Just had another live to come from. But I appreciate you guys, all of you guys, and we'll catch you back here tomorrow, 8:30 Real Talk with Pat Mac. We'll catch you back then.